1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome to Monday. It's cold out there. The 16th of December. And happy to be here with you in whatever, in the vaporous cyber universe. Lots of stuff, I suppose, to talk about. God knows I have lots of scraps of paper. Have no idea what's on them, but we'll see what it yields as the program goes on. Well, Steeler Nation is happy today. That was an extraordinary performance last night by what had been a moribund team, and somebody said, where the hell were these guys all season? I don't know. It was incredible. A lot of fun watching that kind of a game, without a doubt. And I know I sometimes say this, and I know I probably annoy you, but I was so embarrassed by the empty seats. And you're on Sunday Night Football. That's big network, Sunday night. And you claim to be Pittsburgh, the biggest football town known. And your team is taking on a rival, and there's no one there. It was, according to the paper today, the smallest crowd at a Steeler game in Heinz Field history. Ugh. And I think that's shameful. I'm sorry. As for the weather, it was 22 or 23, wind chill into the teens. Well, there's plenty of football fans who go to games in those conditions or worse all the time. So my guess was, and I said to a few people before the game, all right, so it looks like no way they're going to the playoffs, and it's cold out. And I was worried there wouldn't be anybody in the stadium. And I think the crowd was something like 40-some thousand. It was really embarrassing, I thought. The city, on the other hand, looked gorgeous. God, I'd never seen so many postcard aerial shots of beautiful us. I mean, what a glorious city. So the city looked good. The fans looked not so good. And I don't mean to castigate the hardy souls who went and who were rewarded by seeing the best game the team played this year. You know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And it got me to thinking, is there a way, I mean, I know it was a sellout. Is there a way that the Steelers could organize something so that if people who have the tickets know they're not going to go to the game, that they turn those tickets in so that people, this town's full of people who would have gone to that, sat in those conditions and watched that game. Would have been thrilled. So if we can somehow figure out a way to get those tickets into the hands of people who otherwise do not have an opportunity to be at a Steeler game, but would love to be and would not be deterred by winter time temperatures. Surely there's a way to do that, especially with the internet now. And I would think the team would want to do it because it does look bad. It looks bad on TV. And if you think I'm the only one who noticed, all over the country, people looking at that thought, where the hell are their fans? I don't know what it is. It's unbelievable. And no one wants to hear it. I'm sorry, but I just am. Come on. All right. Scariest statistic. No, that's too depressing. All right. Obits. That was a kick in the teeth. Peter O'Toole. I love Peter O'Toole. I love the character. God, what a wonderful character he was. And he lived a pretty wild life there in certain decades, and maybe that's what did him in. His carousing, according to the New York Times obit, was legend, particularly in the 70s. And in fact, he managed to lose much of the money that he had earned playing Lawrence of Arabia, which was his breakout role, his first big role. People hadn't really known of him before. And so he gets his first big paycheck. And what does he do? Along with his castmate, Omar Sharif, they repair to casinos. They hit a casino in Beirut, and that wasn't enough. They hit another casino in Casablanca in a 2-night gambling binge. And I don't know what happened to Sharif's money, but the fact is O'Toole lost most of his. He came from very poor beginnings. His father, in fact, he said, we weren't working class, we were criminal class. His father was was an operator who had his one hand was all mangled because he'd had his knuckles broken by various, I guess, creditors that he hadn't paid. But O'Toole. When you ever if you ever heard him interviewed, he was just bright, and although Johnny Carson, no less, said he was the most difficult guest ever. Now, I don't know what that means, and I wish they'd embellished upon it. And also in the obituary department, Joan Fontaine, another, great actress who I don't think was a very nice human being. Half her obit was about her ongoing feud with her her sister, Olivia de Havilland, also a great actress. That's Olivia de Havilland was Melanie, sweet Melanie in Gone with the Wind, if you're having trouble placing her. And those two, Joan and and her sister, Olivia, I guess they didn't talk for over 40 years. I mean, they hated each other's guts. And it was all over, who got a part, who got the guy, who did this, who did that. Just total pettiness. And Joan was once said something to the effect that if I die before Olivia, she'll be furious because I was first. Now, as far as I know, Olivia de Havilland is still alive. You could check that, but I think, God. I haven't seen an obituary on Fontaine yet, so I don't know. And I'm blanking on the name of her daughter, who I went to school with at the acting school I went to in New York, the Neighborhood Playhouse. Joan Fontaine's daughter was in our entry class. She didn't make it into the second year, which she had to be invited into. And I'm blanking on what her name was, but she was an unhappy soul. She was an unhappy and unattractive, sort of dumpy-looking kid. And I remember when somebody said, she's what?
Deborah, Leslie, is that it?
Are you getting the daughters? Is that her children?
Mm-hmm.
Deborah, Leslie? Those aren't ringing bells. That's it?
The only one that
Okay, then it was Debbie?
No, she has two children.
And they're Deborah?
Deborah Leslie is one.
Oh.
But
Well,
they're not listing
they're not listing the other one? Well, her name wasn't Deborah. Leslie. Sad person. And I found it hard to...
Martita. Was she adopted?
Good heavens, no.
She also
I would
died.
remember that.
Yeah, okay, I don't know.
How odd.
Yeah.
Oh well, I can see her in my I can see her in my mind's eye. And I found it hard to figure, how is that Joan Fontaine's daughter? Huh. The other child of note in that class was a girl named Dallas Pell, which is sort of a great name, isn't it? Dallas Pell. And her father was Senator Claiborne Pell, who will forever be known as the creator of the Pell Grants. The Pell, yeah. And Dallas was in that class. But see, her name I remember because I love that name, Dallas Pell. All right, well, sorry, my voice seems inconsistent. So the New York Times today did a big story on this Pennsylvania Society shindig that happened over the weekend at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. And this is this gathering of Pennsylvania politicos and important people that happens every year, like about I guess it is always the week before Christmas, a few weeks before Christmas. And it's been going on since 18-something or other, 1899. And I can't imagine a worse place to be, but they go from one party and reception to another, and anybody who's anybody is there. And it was reported in one of the weekend newspapers that one of the interesting things about this annual event is that it's bipartisan. All the Republicans are there. All the Democrats are there. Of course, all the lobbyists are there. All the corporations are there. All people who want entree are there, and they're buying drinks and throwing receptions. There's cocktails, there's dinners, and you move on to dessert receptions. I mean, all you do is go from one trough to another. So you can, man, for a politician, this is heaven. And it's pointed out that everybody is nice to everybody. Republicans show up sometimes at Democratic events. Democrats can show up at Republican events. It was pointed out that our Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, who the scuttlebutt there was saying that she's very seriously thinking of running against Senator Pat Toomey in, I believe that'd be 2016. And yet, even though that was the scuttlebutt that she was going to try to knock Toomey off, they were seen laughing and talking together, Toomey and Kane. So that's the kind of collegial atmosphere that occurs at this event. Except, and here's another little item, and this blows me away. This was reported in the Post-Gazette. They mentioned that Kathleen Kane and Toomey palling around, or at least being very warm and conversational with each other, was typical. That was a typical encounter of the cross-party amity that pervades the gathering. But then they talk about a nasty little thing that happened at the event. And amazingly, this was not Republican versus Democrat. This was two Democrats, and one in particular, you could argue, behaving badly. Guess who? County Executive Rich Fitzgerald and Mayor-elect Bill Peduto had a reception. They hosted one. And everyone was there from around here, of course. Name all the names. They were all there, including our controller, county controller, Chelsa Wagner, right? So Fitzgerald sees her there at his reception, and he tells an associate of his, unnamed, to go tell her she's not welcome here, to throw her out, throw Chelsa Wagner out. So one of Fitzgerald's associates, it says here, told Wagner she was not welcome, and she ignored him and continued to talk to other people at the party and meet and greet and slap on the back and all that. Whereupon, it says here, the county executive himself, Rich Fitzgerald, took matters into his own hands. And he is quoted here. Here's the quote. He must have told this to a reporter. I said, Rich Fitzgerald talking, I said, Chelsa, you are not invited.
Oh my God.
This is a party for supporters. You're not going to be my enemy for 2 years and show up at the party. That's what Fitzgerald said he told Chelsa. And she did leave then.
Tacky.
That's tacky. It doesn't say anything nice about Rich Fitzgerald. And I know him, and but that's, come on, wow. It says something about him. It does. I mean, if Kathleen Kane can make nice with Pat Toomey, who she's going to attempt to unseat, perhaps. I mean, Rich Fitzgerald can't tolerate Chelsa Wagner in the same room. And he wasn't the only host. He was co-hosting with Bill Peduto, who I'm sure would not have thrown her out. So, and the fact that he was willing to do that publicly, and bango, it appears in the paper, that can't be good in any way. Huh. It's interesting how you learn about people, obviously, when you have the opportunity to observe their behavior and see, when given power, how they exercise it. And he's not quite the guy I thought he was. In many ways, he's a lot more interesting than I thought he was, and less nice than I thought he was. But it's interesting. All righty, I'm going to take a break. And if I'm forgetting anything, feel free to email me and or call and suggest that whatever it is would be good fodder for some conversation. Okay? I'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Just in time for the holidays, Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com.
Pittsburgh City Paper's special pullout, City Living at its Best, is available now. Pick up one today for a look at the all-diverse real estate options in the Golden Triangle. Plus, Rich Angler, Holiday Pops at Hines Hall, Nebraska, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania. And on the web at pghcitypaper.com, on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com, and check out the new CP Haps app, available for download from iPhone App Store and Google Play.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, I have a few facts that I would like to share with you. This one's unsettling. It really is unsettling. What do you think the third leading cause of death in the United States is? Okay, let's think. What would the first and second be?
Cancer.
Cancer, you think?
Yeah.
Cancer and heart disease. We'll put those 1 and 2 somehow. So what would 3 be? You're not going to want to hear it, huh?
Car accident.
You would think like maybe accident. Yeah, car accident. No. Mistakes in hospitals.
Not surprised.
Mistakes in hospitals! You go into a hospital because you're sick and you want help and they kill you.
Yeah.
That's why, listen. About in a year, almost 500,000 people die in hospitals because of screw-ups. I mean, I've often heard it said that a hospital is not a place you want to be. First of all, because there's infectious diseases all over the place. You don't want to be there. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about mistakes. We're talking about wrong medication. We're talking about, my God, you go in there and they kill you. 1 in 6 deaths in this country can be attributed to mistakes in hospitals. Jeez. I swear, the next time I end up in one, I'm gonna be a nervous wreck. I'm not closing my eyes. I'm gonna double check everything they're doing to me. But you don't know. They can give you something you think, no. Again, our great healthcare system in action. UPMC. Choose a hospital as if your life depended on it. Jeez. All right. And that's from the Journal of Patient Safety. It was reprinted in NewYorkTimes.com. Good God in heaven. The third largest third greatest cause of death in the United States is... I think there's something almost funny about that, but not really. Okay, I got another fact. I have another fact. This also from the New York Times. There's an investment group that always looks at how certain stock portfolios do under Republican presidents, how they would do under a Democratic president. I mean, obviously they use some, and then they look historically at what has happened. As you know, Wall Street invariably prefers Republicans to be in the White House because, of course, they believe in unfettered capitalism, in robber barons run amok, and, let the market, whom we worship, let the market have its way. Well, here's what's weird. Invariably, over the last 100 years, the stock market does well under Democratic presidents and doesn't do nearly as well under Republicans. Go figure. In Barack Obama's first 1,788 days, who's counting, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has gained 15% annualized. Now that's a heck of a rate of return. In fact, that is the fourth best for an equivalent period, 1,788 days, among all American presidents since 1900. Fourth best. Which means there were three other presidents who saw even greater gains in the stock market when they were in office. And I'll tell you this, only one was a Republican. The other two were Democrats. Bill Clinton being one who actually fared better than Obama. What's more, it says here, this is from the business section. Under Democrats, the market has gained 7.1% annualized. Under Republicans, the market has gained only 3%. So one of the founders of this investment group that always crunches these numbers says this. Wall Street always seems to favor the Republicans, but it does considerably better under the Democrats. That, it's a big disparity. People always argue about the reasons, but they can't argue with the numbers. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, those Democrats are going to make us all into socialists. And yet, man, the rich get richer under them. More so even than when the Republicans run things. Go figure. You make of it what you will. Beth writes, I have to say I voted for Rich Fitzgerald. I did too. But after his years in office, I will not do it again. It seems as though Rich has studied from the Tom Murphy style of management. An absolutist behind closed doors and peevish. Peevish. I love that word, peevish. And I want to credit Ann Devlin. Remember Ann Devlin? I used to have a show with her on public TV here, Cullen Devlin. Ann Devlin is the one who I first heard use that adjective for Tom Murphy. I thought it was so dead on. And I had, that's a word that had not been part of my working vocabulary, but Ann resurrected it, and then I lost it again. So, Beth, you have resurrected it once more. Peevish. Exactly. Beth always writes, I was not a fan of Chelsa Wagner's, but Fitzgerald's arrogance makes her a more sympathetic character. That's the thing. That's the thing. He needs some anger control, maybe stuff or something. But yeah, he is an absolutist. He loves control and demands control. Maybe that's how, he's got 5,000 children. And I'm wondering if that's how, you can imagine how regimented that house would have to be to work. And I know his wife, Kathy, and she's lovely and indefatigable. And I remember an article once, I guess, about them and how organized that household was. But I always thought it was probably Kathy's doing. Now I'm wondering. Wow. Jeez. Oh, here's something. And I was lying in bed last night and trying to think of an example. And of course, I can't think of one, but maybe you guys will. Increasingly, when I engage in a transaction with somebody or, whatever, check out at the grocery store, this, that, blah, blah. Someone will say, thank you, like to me, and I don't say you're welcome. I say thank you back. So that you trade thank yous all the time, when that didn't used to be what it was. If somebody said, the response to thank you used to be, help me with this. Am I wrong about that? It's true. The response to thank you used to be, you're welcome. It's not anymore. You rarely hear that. You say thank you to somebody and they say thank you. I do it. And why isn't somebody figuring out why that is? And whatever happened to you're welcome? I mean, every once in a while, I might hear myself say you're welcome, but not very much. It's like this dueling thank yous. Thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What? And I wish I could think of a very specific incident, but as I say this, it does ring true. I know it. It's been bothering me. Like, whatever happened to your welcome? When did that one disappear? I will thank you if you have some thoughts on this. It's little things like that drive me absolutely stark raving mad. And what sort of sparked it in my head was a little item I read. Forgive my voice. I can't, my voice on a good day is horrible, and this is really raspy. Sorry. What? We got a caller? Hello?
Hello. Hey, I have a comment on that. Thank you. But let me tell you something first. I had a Cullenism over the weekend, a Lynn Cullenism. You said that you dropped a 20 and told them to keep the change at McDonald's as an act of goodwill.
Yeah.
Okay, well, up in between Shady Side and East Liberty, this kid comes up. He's like, yeah, is there any place I can get warm? White kid, real skinny, no hat, freezing cold out. Okay, you know where this is going, right?
I don't.
Okay, well, I go, well, there's Giant Eagle up there. Okay, long story short, he claimed, I told him, don't ask me for money because I don't give money on the street. I don't want it to go into drugs or alcohol. But he said he was trying to get off it, and he was supposed to be doing that, getting clean with a friend of his in East Liberty, who started going back to doing crack. So his friend kicked him out of the apartment.
He's telling you this whole story.
I'm sorry?
He's telling you this whole sad story.
On the street. I know it sounds like a scam, but I really believe him. And he was from South Park Township. He didn't even know how to get on the T. And so somebody gave him, I don't know what it was. If it was a transfer, it didn't look like any Port Authority transfer. It said bus. I don't know. But anyway, I gave him a 5. I'm like, go to Giant Eagle, break this. You can get a transfer, take the bus downtown, take the T. Okay. And then I remembered what you said about, and I'm thinking, this is, I mean, you put yourself out a lot more. You dropped a 20 on probably a $5 purchase. So I gave him my hat. And, because it was freaking cold, and this kid was dying. And I'm like, here, just take the hat and go. And I walked away, and I thought, that's thanks to Lynn.
You lost your hat.
No, that's okay.
No, you know what? Didn't you feel good? You at least kept him warm. Okay, the hat you would feel good about, because somebody on a cold day who doesn't have a hat, give him your hat. He can't.
You know what, Lynn? To be honest with you, I felt horrible. This kid was crying. And I really felt I was not being scammed. I really think that I believed him, and I think that he was trying to get off drugs. And he said his mom kicked him out of the house for a different reason. I have a feeling I know why. I think for some reason, I think maybe it was because he seemed gay. He seemed, his mannerisms, I don't mean to be stereotypical, but I think maybe that has something to do with it. And I'm not sure. It's a whole thing. But,
you don't know.
But as far as saying, you're welcome, I stopped doing that. I'll tell you why. Because people take offense to that. They think that in a kind of like a business exchange, wherever it may be, CVS or something, I think that people behind the counter, we're arrogant as Americans by nature, I think, that they hear a you're welcome as a condescending remark as opposed to a thank you, which is on equal terms. You think so?
Like if, ooh.
Yeah.
You might have gotten it. So if you say thank you to me and I say you are welcome, that maybe elevates me a little.
Elevates you, yeah. But
do you think that maybe?
It's possible. It's all in context, though, because it depends if it's particularly a younger person behind the counter. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
They don't want me talked down to. But I kind of had that experience. So if they say thank you, I say, well, you have a good day. And that's it. I won't say you're welcome because I found more than enough times I felt like they felt I was being condescending. But I'll let you go on that note.
Oh, thank you.
Love the
thank
discussion.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, the minefield of social interaction. Now about the guy in the hat, the story we just heard. I remember I lived on Walnut Street at the time in Shadyside, and my doorbell rang. And I opened it up, and this very nice-looking, well-dressed young man was standing there. And he said, he was fantastic. I can't quite remember the whole story. It was, I am so sorry. He seemed so embarrassed and so sort of like, he said, I need some help. He had knocked on my door. I need some help, and, the usual story, something about a car, something about this, something about that. And he just needed enough money to get blah, 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 blah. And I remember saying, well, how much do you need? And he, needed $10, $15 or something, I don't know. And in my head, I'm thinking, this guy's a brilliant scammer. I mean, this is really a hell of a performance. On the other hand, what if he's... So you know what I did? I said, just a minute. And I went, got some money. I gave him money, and then he said, oh, my God, thank you so much. He said, I will repay you. I will be back tomorrow. I will blah, 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 blah. And I said to him this. I said, you know what? I want to tell you something. I don't expect that you'll be back tomorrow, because my suspicion is that you've just done this wonderful performance for me. And I said, however, if you do repay the money, my faith in humanity will be whatever. What is that? Will be restored. Thank you. But I let him know I wasn't expecting it, because I guess I did it because I didn't want him to think I was a sucker. And yet, on the off chance he needed the money, I wanted to give it to him. Obviously, I never saw the money again. But because I wasn't sure, so I gave him the money and let him know that I thought that perhaps he was lying. But I also thought later, the money was worth the performance. That was a brilliant performance. And you figure if he goes up and down the street doing it, he might. That's the thing. You don't want to feel like you're doing, first of all, the wrong thing by giving people money. You don't want to be had. Nobody likes to be had. But I always hearken back to what Susan, my sister, said once. I'm sure I've told you this, but it's stuck in my head. We were at a gas station near Chicago. Yeah, go call her. Go ahead.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
You're talking about people asking you for money and stuff.
Yeah.
My wife worked in Oakland for a couple of years, and she'd be walking down the street in the morning, and I bet you she was, if you would say, accosted like at least a half a dozen times by people, I'm really hungry, can you give me a few dollars?
Right.
And maybe it was even more than a half a dozen times. Anyway, she would say, sure, let's go into McDonald's. I'll buy you whatever you want. And some of them actually turned her down.
Yeah.
But others would go in, and the one guy, she told him, she said, you order whatever you want, as much as you want. And the one guy did order over $15 worth of food. She said, fine. And
jeez. At McDonald's, how did he do that? He ate it
I
all.
was hungry. But she, and she said they, many of them were grateful. They probably wanted the money. The best story for that, you talk about you're afraid to approach people kind of thing. She found this woman with a little girl, was standing, and there were tears in her eyes. She was crying on Forbes Avenue. And she went up to her and she said, are you okay? And the woman said, not really. And she said, well, are you sick? What's the problem? The story is the woman's from Tennessee. She had this little 5-year-old girl. She had applied for a job in Pittsburgh, and they said, sure, come on up. So she loads everything in her car and her little girl, drives from Tennessee to Pittsburgh, and the job disappears. She has no money. So my wife she said, first off, she said, well, where are you staying? She said, oh, we've been sleeping in our car for 3 days, and we're really out of money, and we haven't eaten. So my wife took them to a McDonald's and got them fed, and she said, come with me. And my wife happened to work for UPMC at the time, and she took her up to into the hospital and found a social worker and sat down with the social worker and said, "Look, this is this woman's story. She has her. She's a certified nurse's assistant. She had all her paperwork and everything. Long story short, UPMC hired her. My wife gave her some money, and then got her hooked up with the social worker got her hooked up with a shelter for them to stay until this woman could kind of get her life straightened around."
Wow. And your wife, by just going up and, "Are you okay?" she said, and then
Yeah.
you're married to a wonderful woman.
Oh, tell me.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
for that story. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Don't you say you're welcome to me. Goodbye. Thank you. You made Jess cry.
Yeah.
Well, but you're so easy. You see, but I mean, it says something. How many of you, when you were listening to that story, were thinking, she's not telling the truth. She's just, So what my sister told me, we were at a gas station outside of Chicago, and both were out of the car, and some guy, I see him approaching us quite clearly, is going to ask for money. And he does. And Susan gave him money. And he walked away. And I said to Susan, "Why did you do that?" I said, "I've done a lot of interviews with formerly homeless people and things like that, and they say don't give them money because they're just going to drink it or, buy drugs with it and blah, 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 blah." And what Susan said to me is she said, "Look, I don't know. They can't all have the same story." I mean, she said, "I don't know. If someone is reduced to having to beg, I'm going to give them something." She saw it as like, if you're already at so low that this is all you can do, who are we then to stand up and say, "Well, go away"? Who are we? And what assumptions do we make? Now, it is easier to give money than to do what the caller's wife does, which is say, "Come with me." Because then you're literally having to interact with that person. And that's more difficult. It's more difficult, but it's more humane. I don't know. I also have a friend, a guy, who doesn't have much himself, really doesn't. He will never pass someone who's begging without giving them something. Will never. So, I don't know. I guess how we all react to these things says something about us, and I blow hot and cold. There are a few panhandlers who I know by sight, who troll the East End, my neighborhood, and if I've given to somebody a few times, after a while, I just say, "Hey, no." And there are some that I take an instant dislike to. There's an old woman who I literally can't stand her, and I don't know why I'm reacting like that to her. And she's an old lady. So I ain't always so filled with generosity, and it's a very sort of, I don't know how I'm feeling that day, whatever, but more and more because of what Susan's example and my friend's example, I just give. You feel better. You do feel better. Don't you feel awful when you walk by somebody and they're asking? Don't you feel awful? as I do. So anyway, the thing about the thank you, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, I got it because I read this little bit written by a Brit about the fact that the Brits, do something with the word sorry. That's the same thing. They just apologize to each other left and right. Mm-hmm. So, like he says, if you spill something, here he just says, I'm sitting in a cafe in South London. A teenager inadvertently bashes me in the face with his rucksack, his backpack to us. And I say, sorry. Sorry, my face was in the way. So he says, and I hear myself say, sorry. 5 minutes later, a young woman flattens my foot with her stroller. And I say, sorry. And she says, sorry. Getting up to leave, I knock over my cup. I say sorry to the waitress, and she says sorry. And then I say sorry again. So they did a couple of years ago, he said, that some British newspaper did a little bit of a survey and said that the average Brit says sorry 8 times a day. And they don't say, I'm sorry. He says he doesn't know where the I'm disappeared, where you just trade these sorry. The same thing, so that the person, in this case, like, for instance, who's gotten hit in the head says sorry, even though that's not their place to say sorry. They're supposed to be said sorry too. And I think that's what made me start thinking, what is it with all this stuff that we end up, now everyone says sorry, and everybody says thank you. Huh. So we apologize a lot, and we're thank you a lot, and mostly we're on automatic pilot, I suspect. All right, I got to get a break in here. Yay. We'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to the all-new BergBargains.com for the best deals on holiday gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Log on now for great deals from Atria's, Verde, Rock Bottom, and Quantum Theater. Supplies are limited. The all-new BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Yeah. Here I am. So there's a woman, I guess she's a professor. Yeah. Professor at MIT, who's written a book called Alone Together: Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. And so she's clearly writing about this, strange positives and negatives of our new, technology and how we interact and communicate. And, I find it a really ripe field, obviously. And she's constantly talking to younger people about how they've, like right now, Jess is texting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's always this, when we're alone, even at a stoplight, she says increasingly people cannot bear just sitting. So they will, at a stoplight, reach for an iPhone and just, quickly check something. Or this, and this is something I've been talking about forever. The capacity to sort of be alone and quiet is gone. It's just gone without any input from some other source. I mean, my son never, that I'm aware of, is in a room where there's not something on, music, television. I mean, he falls asleep to this racket. And it's just this constant barrage of noise. And this woman says she sees hope in the very young who have literally grown up with this technology and who are beginning to sort of pull away from some of its cost. And she says, anecdotally, this. A 14-year-old girl tells me how she gets her device-smitten father to engage with her during dinner. And she said this to her dad. Dad, stop Googling. I don't care about the right answer. I want to talk to you. Can you get through a dinner anymore without someone saying, well, Google it?
Yeah.
And often it's me saying Google it. Google it. When I used to be that you would just sit and wonder and argue and this and that. I don't know. And she says, a 14-year-old boy. She's thinking the 14-year-olds might save us. A 14-year-old boy said this to her. Don't people know that sometimes you can just look out the window of a car and see the world go by? You can think. People don't know that. Oh, brother. So she says she's talked to young people about the etiquette that they hold to about, for instance, texting. And she asked them, okay, let's say you're at dinner. Is it okay to text?
No.
Jess says no. You're thinking you're at dinner with what? Another person. What if you're at dinner with 7 people?
It would depend on the situation.
Oh, okay, then Jess starts thinking, 7 people at dinner, maybe. So here's what they told her. And this is reality here. Talked to young people about etiquette when they go out to dinner, and they explained to me that when in a group of, say, 7, they make sure that at least 3 people are heads up in the talking conversation at any one time. And that it doesn't have to be the same 3 people. So in other words, 7 people, young people, are together. You have to have, according to this group, at least 3 who are listening to what is being talked about. The others can have their heads down with their thing, and then maybe someone pops up and says, wait, what? What's that you say? And so gets into the conversation, and another head goes down onto their... And she says the most commonly heard phrase you see in these groups is something like that. Wait, what? What? As one person and then another drops back into the conversation and tries to catch up, while maybe somebody then hearing the repetition for that person goes down into their phone. So that there's... Jeez. And I have to tell you, I mean, I'm not casting any kind of judgment on this because I do it myself now. I do it myself. And I do have some friends, older friends, who I know are so annoyed by it. And I keep telling them, and I think I'm right to tell them, don't get left behind. You know, you can say, I'm not going to text. Well, fine, don't text. Well, fine, don't do this. But if that's the way young people are going to communicate, then you might lose touch with all young people if you fail to sort of make an effort to keep up. And I think it's extremely important to stay in touch with young people. I think it keeps you younger. I think it keeps you literally in touch with the world out there so that you don't, well, it's that Benjamin Franklin quote about, you know, if you stop changing, don't stop changing. You've got to keep doing that. And I don't know. I think it's sort of fascinating in some ways to observe all these changes, but did I tell you the scary thing that Susan's son sent me and it was in the New York Times? Did I already talk about that?
I don't know.
Why don't I have that with me? That would have been what I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, I had told you earlier about Google buying up all these robot companies. They apparently are they're buying them up left and right so that Google is going to own and there are robots, didn't I tell you this, that run faster than Usain Bolt? They have robots now that literally can outrun the fastest guy on Earth. They have robots that can scramble up sides of buildings. They have robots that can do this and that. And this article said that Google is the one behind trying to do something pretty, and they're hush. I did talk about that. But then there was a follow-up article in the Times. And it's chilling. Because one of the things that I think one of the Google people said, that they're looking at robots, obviously, to do a lot of human functions. A lot of human functions. So a lot of jobs that have managed to survive are going to be wiped out. Warehouse jobs, gone. It'll be all robots. Distribution jobs, robots. And you know what? Here's the one that freaked me out. They said elder care. Elder care. So if you have the misfortune of living a little too long, you are going to be cared for by robots. This isn't sci-fi. This is on the business page of the New York Times. All right. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Oh, God. Ugh. I leave you with my son's prognostication. Mom, you're lucky. At least you won't have to live under robot overlords. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.